Hi everyone, welcome. If you're new here, I am Chaitanya. You're watching Chai with Chaitanya. This is a place where I talk about books, movies, and fandom. So let's get started. Today I'm here to talk about this amazing ARC that I happened to just complete this afternoon, and I couldn't control my excitement to actually come and record this video. So I thought let's just go about with it. So the book that I happened to read was Anuradha D. Rajurkar's American Betiya, and it is a book that was sent to me by the book tour company that I am associated with. I'm hosting a book tour for this book on my Bookstagram and also on my blog, so be sure to check all of those down below in my description box. And also, if you're somebody who wants to read ARCs and wants to read specifically Own Voices story, then you should definitely check Here Are Own Voices book tour company, because I think that they have great books and they are really very careful to give books to people who are of the same representation as in the representation in the book. So I happen to receive the ARC of this book because I happen to be a brown man and I'm an Indian, and so are the most of these characters and the primary and the protagonist of this book. So now, talking a little about this book, even before I went in, I knew for a fact that this is a book for the fans of Sandhya Menon and Jane D. Nelson. And I happen to have read both these authors. I did not really enjoy Sandhya Menon, but I did enjoy Jane D. Nelson. So I was really looking forward to see that where this book would lead to. And I would like to tell you that I gave this book a strong 4.5 stars, which definitely means that I really enjoyed this book. Yes, it has some problems, and I think that those problems can be overlooked. But I would be coming to that in the end of this video, because they probably will contain a little bit of spoilers. So first, moving into the non-spoilery section, where I would be telling you what this book is about. So you have this main character called Rani, and she is an Indian brown girl who's living in the States. Her parents have had a really tough time to migrate and immigrate into the States, and then with almost nothing, and then making their way up to a place where they can afford a good lifestyle and bring up Rani. And they're very concerned with Rani's future, and they want her to be able to stand on her own 2 feet and be able to deal in this society, which is truly not their home, because obviously when you are an immigrant, it's not easy to settle into a new country. So they have their own concerns, and like most brown families from brown culture, you get to see that how they do not really approve of dating or love or sex or any of those things which the American culture or which the Western culture in general are very open and liberal about. So you get to see that Rani has a lot to deal with, and she has a very tough time at her home. But again, she never feels that this is a tough time in general until she meets this guy. And she meets this guy at this art gallery where she was displaying her photographs, and this guy who's Oliver was having his paintings or sketches, I'm not sure, paintings, also up on the display. And they happen to meet there, and they happen to connect. They happen to go out a couple of times, and over the course of some time, you get to see that they get into a relationship, and you get to see how Rani has to navigate between being the perfect daughter that her parents want her to be, the perfect Indian daughter in the American culture, and then how she's also trying to be a good girlfriend and being supportive to her boyfriend. And at the same time, she also has a best friend called Kate, so she also has to look after her. So in general, and at the crux, this is probably a love story, or that is what it is posed at. But in reality, it's actually about Rani and how she comes off and discovers who and what she wants in her life and who she is, because a lot about this book is to do with the fact that how your culture always sort of comes at play, and that you do not really exist in isolation, and that your culture is as much as a part of you as much as you are a part of that culture. And no matter, even if you have moved out from that culture, you cannot truly completely get away from that culture. And I think Anuradha did a great job with trying to highlight and bring to light as many good points about the brown culture as well as the not so good part. I, for that matter, happened to enjoy most part of this book, and I felt that it was really fast paced and very character driven, and you follow Rani in first person, so you constantly see Rani and whatever happening around her through her eyes. So you get at all points what she's feeling and what her actions are and what are the motivations behind these actions and why she's doing the things that she's doing and what she's feeling at all times. So that really helped me connect with Rani and also with the story in general, because Rani, as I said, is an Indian brown girl and I am an Indian brown man. So it definitely did make me feel all those things that she was going through, and I could clearly see that everything that she went through is truly something that can happen to somebody who is living in the United States, or for that matter in any of the Western culture. So that was great, and I think that Anuradha has as I said, she's been able to capture the brown culture in its very essence. And because I am a person who has read so much of YA, and I like reading Desi romances and Desi books in general, and there are so many NRI authors out there who are constantly putting out books with Indian characters or with brown people, and even white people who are putting out brown characters in their sub characters and minor characters. But a lot of these people forget, or their books just somehow happen to ignore the fact that your culture will have a great role to play in the way you behave, or in the way you you think, in the way you feel, in the way you are perceived by others. And I think Anuradha has touched upon all of these things in general and in totality in her book. There's also a lot of discussion surrounding racism and how difficult it is for immigrants to settle down in the States or in any of these countries. And I think that that's truly good, because there isn't books in, at least not in YA. And again, I'm not sure if this is YA or if this is NA, because there's a very thin line between two. And because this book has a couple of sex scenes in it, and again, they're not extremely graphic, but then they are very well written. And but then yes, there's a lot of sex discussion or sex related stuff in this, so I'm not sure which one it would actually be put into. But even then, I think, so be it YA or be it NA, it doesn't really matter. The point is that it's still very important, because you don't really get to see this in other books. I think that the closest comparison or the closest similar book that I can talk about is Sajni Patel's The Trouble with Hating You, because again, it's a book which did not really speak a lot on the racism or on the immigration values or immigration laws, or just the feeling of being an immigrant in a Western culture, in a Western society. But it definitely did highlight the brown culture in a very beautiful and in a very important and a very respectful and a very sensitive way. And I think that Anuradha in this book, American Betiya, has just done that. Also, I really like the way art was a part of this book. I think a large part of this book has to do with with your relationship with art in general. And I really liked that how both these characters had very distinct styles of art, and that they both had very different ways of expressing. For example, Oliver tried to channelize everything that he felt, and he made his love life into a muse, whereas we have Rani, who was more of trying to capture real life in the way it is, and trying to make memories, and trying to observe and just be like a person who witnesses everything, and not just go there and manipulate the work that is happening. So I think that both these people had very distinct sort of styles, and obviously because they are two very different people. And the romance that is in there, now again, I did not really expect it to end. Spoiler alert, I did not really expect it to end the way it ended. And again, I will not tell you what exactly happens, but if you have read Aquatar, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and if you're familiar with Farah and Tamlin's relationship, then you can take a hint that what is the problem with both these characters, which is Rani and Oliver, and why it does not end in a positive way in the end. Like, not in a positive way, but they just don't happen to end up together, and that is the positivity, because I think that they were not really meant for one another. Now coming to the negatives. Now these are not exactly negatives, but these are just like things which I felt that could have been better. And there is one. There's this storyline that you follow about Nilesh, and that is important to an extent where you get to see that why Rani's behavior towards drugs in general was questionable with Oliver. But that's just about it. I mean, I can understand that. So for somebody who is very involved with a person, and when you get to know that that person is into drugs and is completely destroyed his or her own life, it's very devastating and it's very traumatic. But I did not see the whole point of that story, and I was trying to grasp it, but it just did not happen until the end. And if what I just said was the only point of having Nilesh in the story, then I think that he could have easily been omitted out, and still it would have made the same impact with him having in the story. So I don't think that his character makes a lot of difference. Another thing that I found really strange was the fact that when you meet Rani and Oliver, like when they meet for the first time and when they start going out together, everything just happens at a great speed. Like you move at an unimaginably fast pace, and it all just feels very unreal to me. And I think a part of it is also to do with the fact that both, like, Oliver was problematic, but again I think that it could have been handled a little better. uh, Third thing that I did not really found very satisfying or very convincing was the fact that in the epilogue section, when Rani comes out and she happens to tell her parents about Oliver, and they know about what's happening in her life, they just happen to have this whole split of personality. Because before Rani's something that happened in Rani's life, they weren't really supportive of the photography that she used to do. But suddenly in about 6 months, they are all there for her, and they are just going out and talking about photography, and they don't mind even if Rani pursues photography and does not become a doctor, which she wants to become. And again, I know that in real life changes do not happen in such linear fashion. They just happen, and it's very unpredictable. It's like a click, and things would change. But when you're reading, it just felt very out of place for me. But beyond that, I did not really find any issues with the book. All of these issues aren't really conflicts or negatives. These are just things which could have been better, as I said earlier, and which is why I deducted the point 0.5 from the perfect 5/5 rating for this book. And there aren't a lot of trigger warnings in here, but if you are somebody who has problems with with drugs or with addiction, or just with toxicity, or with gaslighting, or manipulation, or lies, or cultural differences, then this book might be a little tough for you. But again, as I said, I couldn't really pick on and say that yes, this is a problem, or also that there is a death of a loved one. So again, if you have problems with that, then just be careful before going into this book. I will be posting this review as soon as my tour date comes, so I would be linking down my creatives in the description box. You can go ahead and check that out. And that is all for this book, and I hope to see you very, very, very soon with another video. Meanwhile, if you want to connect, you can always go ahead and find me on all my socials. They would be down in the description box below. And I cannot wait to hear your reviews about this book and what you feel. And specifically, if you are an international reader, then I think that this book might just be like a great place to start to understand brown culture in its totality. So yes.